Hey aspirants, welcome to Insights IAS initiative. In today's episode, we'll have a lot of examples for our essays and ethics along with GS paper 2, that is governance. So we'll begin our discussion with the tunes of rebellion. So this was in the Deccan Herald's Sunday special edition, where the news covered how the women of Rajasthan have been reshaping their identity by participating in various cultural activities or traditional singing practices. Okay, so we'll just look into this concept here. It would be a great example for gender dimensions, that is in GS paper 1, related to art and culture as well in GS paper 1, and in GS 4 how to use the local cultures and traditions to break the stereotypes and barriers. So here, there is a festival organized in Jodhpur every year called Roots Music Festival. Here, the women from the folk communities of Rajasthan, this time they have chosen their art on their terms. That is, they have chosen their art on their terms. It means all these traditional musics, the folk musics, are also having gender based divisions. That is, certain instruments are to be played by men, certain are to be played by women, and in most of them men would have a major role. But this time, or this event was used by women of these communities to create their own music by taking on challenges and uh, criticisms that they have been facing in these communities, right? So the best example or a very beautiful depiction has been given with the example of Kalbelia. So when you were preparing for art and culture, you would have heard about this play and folk dance called Kalbelia, and this is the image of women dancing to the tunes of Kalbelia. But the dance is only performed by women, whereas the musical instruments are always played by men here. So it's kind of women being dependent on men if they have to perform kalbelia as an activity here. Hence, there is an instrument especially called khartal. Okay, Kartal used to be played. Remember to quote this in the answers if you are using it for the GS paper 1 culture and society topic. So Khartal is an instrument which is played only by men belonging to a particular community called Manganiyar community. Correct. So it's not only caste identity here, caste and gender have been playing a major role in the performance of Kalbelia. So here we see the example of a person called Mamta. Okay, so what has happened? Mamta, who is now encouraged to play Kartal by her own parents. So it so happened that she told her parents that she's interested in playing this instrument, and her father encouraged by buying her 3 instruments on her birthday. So what she has done, as she was not a trained person in utilizing this instrument, she just logged on to YouTube, took some classes for 15 days, and now gives public performances of this instrument along with other male counterparts. So here she tells that even after this success, society judges her and her family by telling that who is going to marry your daughter when she is performing these kind of plays in the public spaces. So this is something where we tell that the women for women, this art form has become a mode of challenging the various society stereotypes and beliefs. So next is the story of Prem Kanwar Dangi. So she is a professional Mand singer. This is another folk music popular in the state of Rajasthan. But she has a background story for this. That is, she is a kabaddi player. So, as a kabaddi player, the attire and the uniform that she has to wear is the shorts and the t-shirts, for which she and her family was entirely criticized. But today she tells that music liberates her and gives her an opportunity to identify her own self and try to keep the culture of the state alive for quite long time. So it's not only a source of opportunity, but also source of liberation for many women from the tribal, or we can say the folk communities of Rajasthan. So here, this initiative, or the Roots of Music initiative, was started by a filmmaker called Suruchi Sharma. Suruchi Sharma. So she has started a kind of initiative like Why I Do What I Do. So under this, she tells that music here is something that she's trying to tap the potential of livelihood, livelihood through art. This is an idea. Then people will have ownership, ownership over folk forms, that is they can claim it to be their own, and it adds a lot of pride in the value of being part of this music tradition. Then women as song keepers. If you know the difference between classical and we can say folk music, is that many of the lyrics and the tune is not written anywhere. It is transmitted from one generation to another generation orally. So at a time when we have multiple other sources of entertainment, folk music's idea is slowly going down the lane, because much popularity in the market doesn't exist, especially in the urban areas. Hence, this kind of activity where women will pass this idea from one generation to another generation, they are the best song keepers, we must say. In addition to this, she tries to create the idea of inclusion, that is trying to grow together by taking everybody in the society together with us. So if you relate, we could kind of prepare a question for this, like art is not just an expression of creativity, but a tool for societal transformation. So discuss the role of art in empowering women and challenging gender stereotypes. So this art form in Rajasthan, which is traditional or folk songs, could be a good example for this proof of how it empowers women. We can also talk about Hargilla Army. Hargilla Army is an army that is in the state of Assam, that uses the local prints, local art form to protect the bird called Hargilla, or the greater adjutant stroke. So this is done by the self-help group, who are not only protecting the environment but also protecting the local art and culture here. Hence, this for this question, what we discussed just now would be a very good example to mention. So do note them down under three separate categories in GS paper 1, art and culture, GS paper 2, role of women in protecting culture, or stereotypes associated with traditions and a woman's role. At the same time, GS paper 4, stereotype as a topic. In this we can cover this example. So the next article is a combination of two important news that had come. One is from Economist newspaper, Economic Burden of Breast Cancer in India 2000 to 2021 and the forecast for 2030. And this was again from Deccan Herald. If my body allows it, I will work. So Hina Khan on navigating her cancer journey. Let us see what this article is about. So if you want to look about the burden of this breast cancer as a disease, in India, cancer in itself is the fifth leading cause of death in the country. In India, and especially when it comes to breast cancer, 28% of the cancer related deaths are breast cancers in India. Okay, 28% of not death, sorry, 28% of the diagnosed cancers in India is breast cancer. So this, as we know, the burden of the disease is increasing for multiple reasons. One of them include lifestyle, sedentary lifestyle, lack of physical activities in our daily lives. This could be a reasons, and we can talk about unhealthy food consumption, unhealthy food platter, lack of balanced diet, And in addition to this, we have a lot of concerns going on with respect to plastic pollution as well, and large scale usage of pesticides and fertilizers in our agricultural system also has indirect reference or contribution to the growth of cancer in India, which is one of the largest in the world today. So this topic would be very relevant for us in the discussion because of late in India we are seeing that as a developing country, in the initial years of our independence, we used to see the large scale deaths going on due to communicable diseases like malaria, tuberculosis, plague, and polio and all of them. But as we have progressed, many of these diseases are under the government's control now, and they are not the major causes of death. And now that idea is being replaced with non-communicable diseases. As the nation is progressing, urbanization is increasing, and this concept of sedentary lifestyle comes as a part of the urban way of life. As a result, we see that non-communicable diseases burden is on the rise. So we can definitely expect a question related to non-communicable diseases and its burden in the country. So please prepare a kind of note with respect to these non-communicable diseases. It could be cancer, it could be cardiovascular diseases, it could be obesity, it could also be mental health. So please prepare for this for your prelims and mains as well. Right. So challenges faced by the patients is something we already know. The whole concept of getting diagnosed with cancer itself is very traumatizing and stressful. This is one of the outcomes, we must say, and the huge amount of pain they undergo in the whole treatment process is very difficult for one to bear, and the huge financial expenses that comes with the treatment is again very challenging for many families to take care of. And it's not only for the patients, it's a huge burden on the country's health system as well when many patients come to take treatment for this. And the family also is equally difficult for the families to manage, as a patient is in pain, and many of the time the families who cannot afford a treatment, they feel helpless. And especially this happens with persons from lower economic background or from the rural areas. So these challenges are not easy to deal with. That is, despite government's effort to increase the cancer care in government hospitals as well, we see that the pain here is very personal. And if a person mentally gives up on getting cured of cancer, it's kind of the half battle is lost. Hence, there was a very recent example, a kind of role model example, we must say, about Hina Khan. Hina Khan is a popular television actress who was in 2024 diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. Many of you would have come across this news as well, but she took it as a sport. And in one of her recent posts, that is a kind of wind up of what happened in 2024, she tells that 2024 has only made me stronger. That is, instead of taking a complete break from the social media or from her acting career, she wanted to set up a lesson that this disease called cancer cannot be an obstacle to the dreams and aspirations of a person. So yes, she agreed that the whole process was painful to undergo the therapy, but she always has put up the fight with the support of her family and has made it a determined idea that she's going to defeat this concept of cancer altogether. Hence, this idea would be very relevant because for many people who suffer from this disease, what they lack is the emotional support and motivation, as family also would be shattered to a great extent when this disease falls in. So this effort of Hina Khan was appreciated world over, we must say, and many of the newspapers have also covered a column telling that this kind of people or these kind of leaders who are among the public, that is the public figures, need to be roped in for the purpose of creating awareness and the concepts of availability of treatment. So if you see, remember this episode, and we can use it in various ways in our answers. If we take in ethics, this topic is a very good example of resilience and especially emotional strength. So, when we want to talk about emotional intelligence and strength, this example would be relevant. It's an example of how personal challenges, personal challenges can serve as a source of inspiration for others. So, the other idea is positive attitude. We have this topic called attitude in our GS paper 4. So especially when you get any case studies related to facing some huge challenges, the positive attitude of Hina Khan would be a very good example, in addition to the inner strength that she's displaying under this adverse circumstance. The third one is empathy and social awareness. So, when she came up with the idea that she has been detected with cancer and is getting the treatment, it not only created empathy for herself but also created a lot of social awareness that we also might be getting, we have to get treated or get diagnosed with this cancers in the early stages if a person wants to deal with the treatment in a better way. So this also reminds me of another public figure called Deepika Padukone, who has been a victim of clinical depression. So she has never shied away from accepting this fact in social media and has always keep given her best to raise awareness about how this silent killer called clinical depression can be overcome with medication and support from the counseling therapists. So these kind of examples have a major role in telling that how public figures can be utilized to create awareness about the major health concerns, right? So the other papers where we can use this topic is GS paper 2. In GS paper 2, the topic of governance, if we see, in governance, we have effect, we can say disease like TB and others which are stigmatized. So actors like this can be used to destigmatize the diseases. So destigmatizing diseases would have a major role in making the treatment more acceptable to the public. And we can talk about mental wellness of patients who are suffering from various illnesses. For this, ideas of actors promoting or actors becoming brand ambassadors would be relevant. Next one would be importance of public figures in spreading awareness. Okay, so this actually reminds me of a very important quote that Gandhiji used to tell always, that is, strength doesn't come from physical capacity, it comes from indomitable will. Let's say if you get the statement in paper 4, what does this quote mean to you? The example of Hina Khan and Deepika Padukone could be a very good example here. And there is also a probable essay topic like adversity builds character. So in these kind of topics, what we just discussed, the idea would be very relevant. So we have a small addition to this topic, as we have seen two actresses playing or public figures playing a role in disease eradication. We have a very recent example of a boxer or a sports person who is a public figure, that is Mary Combs open letter to her sons. So Mary Combs is having three boy kids here, and very recently she has written an open letter to her children, asking them to become sensitive to the concept of gender discrimination. So if you see here, raising boys right is a campaign going on in the social media where children are, parents are talking about why only talk about making women safe. We can start or raise the boys in such a way that they're sensitive to women and they don't take this idea of gender stereotyping seriously. So you can give a pause and try to go through this letter. We have given you only the snippets here as the letter is quite long. So if time permits, you can also read it to get an idea of how a mother feels about raising a boy in the present generation. So this is two slides and we have the other two here. And if you know, Mary Kom is also a Rajya Sabha MP now, a nominated member, and tells that I will do my best to create awareness about sexual crimes against women. So I will ask questions about the way some of our politicians speak, about the attitude of the police, and also the sole duty is to apply the law. So do read it when you are watching the video, so that you can use them in your answers on role of positive we can say political leaders as well. Article would be from our Hindu newspaper itself, with retreat Meghalaya cabinet goes places. That is, you can see here the people who are standing here are none other than the members of State Legislative Assembly of Meghalaya, with this individual who has a major role in creating a sustainable bridge in Meghalaya. So the idea is like the trek is to see Umkar Root Bridge in Meghalaya, created by Halley War. So Halley War, you can see in the image here, is a man who initiated the weaving, that is weaving of the roots of a tree, which is an essential part of local culture for more than 300 years. So this example of root bridge in itself has a lot of significance in our answers writing, because it is about sustainable architecture. Then it is a community driven program where community takes stakeholdership in providing the facilities to the society. And as it is with dealing with the nature, it comes with a lot of patience and dedication. Then it is something it is very directly related to wisdom passed down to generations. Just as we had seen the folk tradition, in the same way, this idea of root bridges is also passed on from one generation to another generation. So this concept would be very relevant for us in ideas like sustainable development of GS paper 3, and there are many essays that had come about forests are the best case studies of economic excellence, and we can tell that it could be relevant way of starting our answer in this way. There is another essay, that is a PYQ, which tells that inspiration for creativity springs from the efforts to look for the magical in the mundane. So even this routine way in which the Meghalayan communities have been living close to nature, being very creative and having a bridge like this, is what that has made them an internationally significant name, drawing tourists from different parts of the world today. So it was their routine life to cross bridges and pass on, but creating a root bridge, as the tradition goes, is something that has made the magical out of the mundane. So now when we talk about this concept of retreat, that is the idea of leaders, that is political leaders and ministers, going out on a trek to meet a person who has created this bridge, it gives a very fresh thought to the idea of politics. So if you see in our previous two episodes, we had been lamenting that the quality of political leaders have come down, as there is no education related to politics that they'll be covering, and also there is no fresh idea of younger generation politicians taking up the idea of politics. But this example gives a fresh breath of air, telling that political leaders have gone down to the ground level to meet the people who have created a lot of difference. So this topic would be relevant to us in GS paper 4 if you take leaders connecting to the local area or connecting with the grassroots efforts and learn from the local wisdom. So this trek to meet a maker of a bridge symbolizes the humility of the leaders, accessibility, and also a kind of willingness that the leaders have to understand and appreciate traditional knowledge from the first hand experience. Then this paper 4 also, we have the topic of ethics and sustainability here, where local wisdom aligns with sustainable development and environmental idea. So you can use this example in case studies as well, which makes your answers more interesting. Right. Then in paper 3, we know we have a topic called uh, traditional traditional knowledge systems. Indian traditional knowledge systems. So many of our tribal groups are having immense knowledge about various concepts, like medicinal plants or some ideas of getting being closer to the nature. This indigenous knowledge system, as we have seen, they're not documented. They are to be preserved by the government to make sure we don't lose out on this art and culture. So India's rich biodiversity and indigenous engineering needs to be explored and protected by the government, and we can also utilize it very consciously for ecotourism purpose, so that people get connected to the nature and know why it is important to protect it. Okay, so when we talk about this in governance as well, it would be relevant because governance has the topic of getting closer to the public when we are trying to uh, make a policy work effectively. So we can use this example to underline how importance of grassroots level. So it is for governance, how it is important to officials to go to the grassroots and to see how development happens without even the support of government many a times. We can also give this for the example of decentralized democracy, because the person here, Hali War, he is the sarpanch of a village that is benefited by the connection of this bridge altogether. So remember to quote them in your GS paper, two answers. So in addition, we can give a kind of philosophical touch to this also. We'll look about this here. That is, we can create a whole concept of comparing these trees and bridges with politics. So it's a kind of metaphor, we can say. So we can say, just as roots grow slowly, roots of this tree grow slowly but very steadily. That is, they don't stop, they are consistent steadily to form a bridge. Governance must also be rooted in patience, sustainability, and connection with the people. So, this concept of comparing a root bridge with politics would be a very good way of using in your ethics answers. At the same time, we can also discuss a Gandhian concept here, like living in harmony with nature. That is, humans should tread lightly on earth by respecting the nature's rhythm, is what Gandhiji has always believed in. So try to remember these two philosophical connotations also of this particular topic. The last topic for today, but quite a lengthy discussion, is about planning our lives beyond work. So this was an a kind of column that had come in New Indian Express newspaper on the Sunday edition. So here the author gave us a very good story. From here, or an idea from here, we can pick up our discussion further. So the subtitle could be Drive for Luxury. That is, many people you see would have purchased a very luxurious car, especially in urban areas. They would have spent a huge amount of money in the form of EMIs and purchased a luxury car only to keep them in the parking yard. What is the reason? The reason is that they have to work so hard to fulfill the EMIs that this luxury to drive the luxurious car, there is practically no time. So the author talks about or raises a question as in, what really makes you happy? That is it buying a car or owning a car? Does it give you the happiness that yes, I am the owner of this car, now I am owning this expensive car here, and people in my surroundings probably are not having it, so this is the one thing that gives you happiness? Or is it the joy of driving a car, and exploring the nature or the world with this car? What exactly gives you happiness is a question that the author raises here. And if you know, this is very much relevant at a time when discussions in the country are very wrought on what should be the ideal time of working in an organization. One of the CEOs recently pointed out that it should be 90 hours work week, and has created a lot of controversy and has garnered a lot of criticisms as well. So this question should be something we need to ask constantly to ourselves, as in, mere possession of a material thing gives us happiness, or using it to create happiness out of it, which exactly does it mean? So just merely working for 90 hours, not finding a time for ourselves, will it create happiness or not, is the question. So, contrary to this, there was a report published, I think, in November of 2024 about the concept of unbossing that is being practiced in Gen Z. That is the idea of becoming manager. To determine one's professional success, we would tell that if you have become a manager, it shows that you are a professionally greater person. This was definitely true for Gen X, who saw the career growth by becoming managers or managing the resources of a company. But of late, the Gen Z population have started realizing that if we take up the responsibility of a manager, we would be nothing but working for the organization. What about one's own self growth? We might get to learn, but we would not have the time or even the patience to garner the strength and work for our own potential as well. Hence, the Gen Z who have started working from the past 2 years, there is an increasing trend among them that they are focusing on gaining skills rather than managing. So please remember, there is a huge shift in the way people perceive the success in an employment. So their focus is on gaining skills for themselves rather than managing the resources. They have been very conscious uh, about what role they are choosing when they are employed in an organization. Then they want to take a lot of impactful decisions or make impactful changes or impactful contributions to the creation of an organization, but do not want to take the leadership benefits or do not want to take the managerial role. So why the question is why do they think that we don't need the managing idea here? It is because when it comes about management, mainly there is a lot of stress associated with it, and there is less amount of time available for oneself, plus there is very much less autonomy in decision making, as you have to rely on multiple people to get your works done. At the same time, you do not have the freedom to hone your own skills. So, keeping all these things in mind, the Gen Z is being very mindful not to choose professions like this. So, if you see, when we are talking about the work life balance here, what is the concept we need to focus on? That is, why is it very important at the present juncture to create a balance of, create a work and life balance altogether? Okay, so let's just have a look at it. We know the context of it. So, how is it relevant? If we talk about ethics, GS paper 4, having a sound balance between work and life is very important, because one's personal and professional lives are extremely important for an individual. So, ethical dilemmas arise when individuals are pushed to prioritize work over at the cost of, let's say, their health and their relationship. And if you know, this had become very much a point of discussion when an employee from Ernst and Young lost her life due to work pressure. So if you see, it also has a lot to do with dignity of labor. So dignity of labor, in the sense, excessive hours of work, and it almost amounts to exploitation of the members when the payment is not done equally. So it undermines the dignity of labor and also human rights altogether. But when you see also from an economic perspective, so, okay, this would be from GS paper 3 idea. Even from economic perspective, prolonged work hours might initially boost productivity because everybody is working for longer hours, but often lead to diminishing returns. This term would be very relevant, diminishing returns, because as you progress, the outcome would go on declining. What is the reason? because workers would be exhausted and which would lead to errors in the decision making. So if you compare to Nordic countries or countries where Scandinavian countries we also call them, they have a very different work culture where they people work only for 4 days in a week, 3 days off, and they have one of the highest productivity among the workforce, we can say. At the same time, if you talk about essays perspective, from the perspective of essay, we can utilize this concept of work life balance to keep a sound health when we are talking about professional success. So when we are talking about GS paper 2, in the governance idea, we can actually have a strict labor law and its implementation. Though we have good labor laws in India, quite in news now. So labor laws and their strict implementation at times are needed to make sure we do not have entities like this which might exploit the labor like this, right? So, and why would it be relevant in paper 1? If you think it talks about how excessive work hours can strain family relationship, which is a major fundamental core of Indian society, we must say. And it has a great impact on eroding the social order, as people don't find time to interact with each other. The bond of the society comes down greatly. So let's say even if it happens in such a way that a male is working and a female is almost held with taking up the household responsibilities, it is nothing but creating much burden on the female to manage the only house affairs, and would not get time for herself as well, because husbands or male who are usually in the workforce are high. And the statement was equally controversial because it was about the male counterparts working and the female staying at home. So the other way also could be true, where a female would give more time to the work, compromising the needs of the family altogether. Both genders would have a negative implication here, right? So if you see, there was a essay, okay, we are coming back to the essay topic, where there was a concept in ethics essay that you cannot step into the same river twice. So the time that we have lost in our younger age, when we could have been a lot of a productive person focusing on our personal life, on our hobbies, on our mental health, that time is lost after some days, some years, when you realize that you did nothing but just worked for an organization. So you cannot buy back the time with money earned from overwork. That is very much true. Hence, this concept would be relevant for work life balance, and you can use it as examples in your GS papers. So, it's not only for the organizations and employees, it is also for you, the UPSC aspirants, who have been putting a lot of efforts to get through this examination, and the process is extremely stressful because many of us snap the social connections at times, try to put all our efforts by neglecting what exactly we need in our lives. So try to be as grounded as possible, try to have a balance between your work, between your study time, and put a lot of efforts, or be conscious when we are eating healthy food, and also some importance is needed for physical activities on a daily basis, so that mind is receptive about whatever you are thinking and whatever you are studying. So please take care of yourself, because this balance is something that's going to be with us throughout our life. Thank you so much for staying with us. Meet you again with the next episode.